live. Oh, okay. I think we are good, and I want to welcome you all. This is our 4th day of Survivors Week. Oh, let me set that up. Okay. So we're on our 4th day. We've had, let's see, Tuesday, we had a session on stress and anxiety and insomnia or sleep. Wednesday, we did yoga. Last night, we had a session on combating isolation and loneliness with Wake Forest Baptist. So today, our session is our Cook to Thrive class, and we're going to do some comfort food recipes. Everybody has different comfort foods, but we are going with kind of a theme of mashed potatoes and mac and cheese and fried chicken with a healthified twist. So that's what we're going to do today. Hopefully you all got your recipes sent out by email. And we are recording this, of course. It's on YouTube, so you can watch it later if you're kind of just checking out to see how we do things. If you're not familiar with me, I'm Julie Lanford. I am the Wellness Director at Cancer Services and the Cancer Dietitian. And I am on behalf of Cancer Services, Novant Health, Derrick L. Davis Cancer Center, and Wake Forest Baptist Comprehensive Cancer Center, welcoming you to this portion of our Survivors Week celebration as we wrap it up tomorrow at our party. So I hope you're planning to join us for the party tomorrow. Before we get started though, I just want to encourage all the survivors out there to send us your photo. So the deadline of submitting pictures is 3 o'clock this afternoon. We include the pictures in our party slideshow tomorrow. So if you want to see your face up on the slideshow, be sure you send it to us. There's a little certificate. I don't have one with me, but we have a little certificate that's in celebration. It talks about how many years you're celebrating and who, like what caregivers or healthcare providers you're especially grateful for on your journey. You can write those on there, take your picture and send it to Lindy, Lindy, at cancerservicesonline.org, or you can just reply back to the emails you get every day about what's coming up. Or if you, on the back of your certificate, it has a phone number that you can text the photo to. So we'll be putting those up on our slideshow presentation during our party, which starts at 10 o'clock tomorrow. So I think that's it on that end. And so today I mentioned that I am the Cancer Dietitian. I write cancerdietitian.com as part of our programs at Cancer Services. I host these cooking classes. Before the pandemic, we did them in real life. And since the pandemic, we've been doing them virtually, which actually gives me a little more flexibility because I have my whole kitchen to access things from. So we've been doing them every month. And then because our theme for Survivors Week is self-care, we are doing comfort food recipes today. So hopefully you'll like one or more of them. I tried them out on Wednesday and my interns have tried them out and it's worked out really great. So the cauliflower one is new to me. I have made the oven fried chicken before in the past, as well as the carrot mac and cheese actually came from Chef Melina, who taught one of our cooking classes a couple of years ago. I don't know if anybody was part of that, but she was a really great chef to keep things really simple. So we're using her recipe again. And for those of you who are interested in sort of altering it, I'll talk a little bit about that. So we're going to start first, if you can see, there's my hands, my overhead camera here. Hopefully it doesn't get too hot. I've had it turn off before. So when I'm cooking the mac and cheese, we'll see how it goes. But we are going to start with the oven fried chicken so we can get it in the oven and then make the other recipes while it's cooking. One thing that I went ahead and did ahead of time is actually for the cauliflower mash. I went ahead and roasted our garlic because when I made this on Wednesday night, the garlic was so hot that I couldn't get it out of the foil fast enough. So I'll show you that, but I'll also show you kind of how I made it when we're making the cauliflower recipe. Now you can feel free to put any questions in the Q&A or in the chat. Lindy is actually on behind the screen, so she'll let me know if I miss anything. But I'm always happy to take questions because it makes things a little bit more interesting for me. So for all of you, Lindy, if there's any way, I don't know, if you can go find the recipe links and put them in the chat, that would be awesome. But our oven fried chicken is our first recipe. So what we're doing, we're taking a cup and a half of corn flakes. And so I've already crushed them up. You can see that in here. I just use a plastic bag and put them in there and use a rolling pin to crush them up. You can also just use, you know, the back of a knife or your hands probably. So we've got that ready. I have my oven preheated to 450 degrees, a little hot in here already. And what we're going to do is we're going to mix a little egg white with water, dip the chicken in it, then put it in the corn flakes, and then put it on a pan. So this is the pan that I use. It's just a stone. So my instructions say like, what does it say? In a foil lamp lined pan. I don't actually need to line it because my pan's pretty much non-stick as it is, but if you line it with foil, that does help with the cleanup. All right, so we're going to do, we've got that, and it's called Cajun, and that's because I use the Creole seasoning on it. If you don't want it spicy, quite honestly, I made this, it didn't taste spicy to me at all. So I do use Creole seasoning. But it could probably use a little bit more if you wanted to add some like cayenne to it to make it a little spicier. My kids aren't big fans of spice, so we'll keep it as it is. But you could add a little more spice. If you're worried about it being too spicy, let me tell you, if it's not that spicy. But you can always just use salt and pepper if you want. So I actually picked chicken tenderloins, because then it's like chicken tenders and kids really like that. And what I find is what kids like is also kind of what some adults really like if you really get down to it. So we're going to do it with tenderloins, but you can also do it with chicken breasts. Between about 1.5 pounds of chicken is what we're going for. And then we're going to mix 1 egg white and 1 teaspoon of water. All right, and when I made this before, I got a little bit of egg yolk in it, and I'll tell you, I just kept going and it didn't really matter. So we'll see how I do getting the egg white out. Almost there. Oh. All right, well, that was actually easier. All right, so we got that. We're going to add a teaspoon of water. Eyeball that. And then we're just going to mix it up. Oh, I'm using a fork. Actually, on Tuesday, I had a little one of our giveaways from another cooking class we did at the stock pot. Let me get that out just to show you. A little tiny whisk. A mini whisk. So cute. So I don't know if anybody did one of those cooking classes. I can't even remember what it was we were making, why we got the mini whisk. But anyway, we're getting it so it's a little bit frothy. And it seems like hardly anything, but it goes far enough to cover our chicken. And the nice thing about this recipe, it goes in the oven. You don't have to use a bunch of oil, heat a bunch of oil up, clean that up. It's also a little bit lower in fat, but still crunchy, which is what we want. And in our household, we dip it in ketchup. All right. So what I'm going to do is take one at a time. Actually, let me check the chat before I get my fingers dirty. Oh, perfect. So you got the recipes linked in the chat. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to basically just follow the instructions, which is to take the chicken, dip it in egg white, put some of the Cajun seasoning on it, and then we'll put it in the corn flakes. Get one more pan out here to make it easier for me. Okay. Here we go. So cover both sides of it. Then we'll put the Cajun seasoning. Something if you want to kind of change up the flavors, You could use a variety of different, seasonings on it. You could even mix seasonings into the cornflakes. But we're just trying to keep it simple today. And really with comfort foods, sometimes you don't want a lot of fancy flavors. You just want something that tastes like what you're expecting. And I have had people ask me during the pandemic, oh, well, should I try to, if you want to try different recipes, that's fine. But sometimes we just need something to give us a little comfort and not be too different. All right, so now I'm going to add the Cajun seasoning, which is Creole seasoning. This is the seasoning mix. It does have some salt in it. Flip them over. You could add hot pepper flakes. Actually, my intern added hot pepper flakes to the mac and cheese too. So lots of options depending on what you like. All right, here's our corn flakes, which gives it crispy, nice crispy texture. And also it gives it a look, a good fried chicken look. Okay. Cover all the sides. And then what we'll do, when I baked mine on Wednesday night, I thought, oh, maybe because I'm using tenderloins, it might cook a little bit faster, but I don't know. I'm using a convection oven, so I don't know if it takes a little bit longer, but it still took a good 20 minutes for my chicken tenderloins to cook all the way through. So it says on the thing 18 to 23 minutes. You probably know your oven pretty well. All right. That's basically all there is to it. There we go. And then I'm going to put that in the preheated oven and set my timer for 20 minutes. Okay. So I do want to show you one thing about this roasted garlic. So we actually had it planned out so that you could roast the garlic while you're cooking the chicken. But like I mentioned, what I found is that it was so hot when I pulled it out, and I wanted my garlic to be able to go right in when I make the cauliflower. So I'm just going to show you what it looks like here. It's hard to tell that that's a caramelized garlic. But what we're going to do is let it cool a little bit, and then we can add it to our cauliflower recipe. But what I would typically do is put that in when we put the chicken in. All right, so any question on the chicken? That one's pretty basic. So what we have for the carrot mac and cheese, what we're going to do, I've already cooked the noodles because that takes a little bit longer. I didn't want to spend a lot of time boiling water on the screen. But what we're going to do is essentially make the sauce, and I'm going to use a food processor to make the sauce. The reason you can use carrots or sweet potatoes or yams or any kind of sort of yellow or orange vegetable is because you puree it up. You're going to mix it with cheddar cheese. It really looks just like, cheese sauce. It has a little bit of a sweet flavor, which is really actually quite good. When I made it the other night, I used shells, so it had a little bit of kind of felt like the Velveeta shells and cheese. I think it's really delicious with a little bit of sweet taste from the carrots. And conveniently, I'll show you what we have. So you can use canned carrots, which is really simple. You can also use fresh carrots, cook them yourselves and puree them. It doesn't really matter, but I found that these are really simple and basic, really soft and creamy. And so 2 cans of carrots will give you the 3 cups that you need in the recipe. And then that 1 pound of pasta is essentially a box of macaroni pasta. So that's what we're using for that. All right. So what we have first of all is a little bit of butter to make it creamy. We have a cup of milk. I mentioned the 2 cans of carrots, salt and pepper, macaroni, and then our cheddar cheese. So the nice thing about making this recipe is that you actually add vegetables, the carrots, into your mac and cheese. It's just as creamy, but has less fat because you're not using nearly as much cheese as you typically would, or adding, cream or sour cream or things like that. You do need a little bit of butter. Now, if you used a higher fat milk, I'm using, it's 1% milk, or skim. If you use a higher fat milk, you could use less of the butter. It's just kind of making sure you have enough in there to get it a creamy texture that really sticks on your palate and tastes the right way. So we are going to put our butter in the pan because that's going to melt. And while it's melting, I'm going to puree our carrots and our milk together. So hopefully my camera can handle the heat. That is the one thing I've had happen before. Camera turns off because it gets too hot. All right, so that's melting. Gonna get my food processor out. Let's see, is it in the screen? Not really, let me move it over. I'm gonna swap the ingredients to this side. Okay. Here we have it. It's a little bit loud. All right, so we got my food processor here. I'm going to strain out the carrots. Put them in there. And I don't think it says this in the recipe, but I went ahead and put the milk in with the carrots just to blend it up pretty smooth. Now, if you have a smaller food processor and you did that, it might, spill liquid all over, but this was my birthday present, or my Christmas present was a bigger food processor. Okay. Now let's read the directions because often I miss things. Okay. Noodles are cooked, melting the butter, carrot, milk, salt, pepper to a saucepan. Okay. So I am going to puree these up. If you don't have a food processor, you can just mash these, especially the ones that come out of the can are really pretty easy to mash. Or if you're using sweet potatoes or yams or something like that, you can just use a potato masher or a fork to get your 3 cups. So you don't have to use a food processor, but it does make it extra creamy if you do. All right, push a couple of these carrots back down. I think what I'll do too is add some salt and pepper and have it puree in as well. A little bit of salt. A little bit of pepper. It says to taste, so that's a choose your own adventure. All right, here we go. Looks good. Now, I use cow's milk. And if you don't tolerate cow's milk or you just don't want to drink cow's milk, you can do soy milk, and that will give you a similar amount of protein. What's the new one? Like oat milk is, I remember the business community was talking about how oat milk went public. I don't think it quite has as much protein per volume as soy milk. So I do prefer soy milk as the plant-based alternative if possible. If you're lactose intolerant, lactate milk is also a good option. It will make this a little bit sweeter. Both soy milk and lactate milk are a little sweeter than cow's milk, so it'll add that in. All right, so we have our carrots, our milk, our salt and pepper, and we're gonna add it to the melted butter. And then it's just gonna cook a little bit. Now, in Melina's instructions, on here, it talks about cook it long enough so it coats the back of the spoon. And I think I'm not in touch with my food enough to be able to do that. So I just cook it till it's warm or hot. All right, I'm gonna rinse this out because we're gonna use it again for the cauliflower mash. I do like to do a lot of different, like if I'm going to use the food processor, I try to do several different recipes so that I don't have to wash it so much when I'm cooking. So I just rinse it out if I'm doing one recipe to another. All right, so while that is cooking here, see how my camera's feeling. It's not too bad. I'm gonna let this cook, kind of heat up in here in the pan, and we're gonna start cooking our cauliflower. We've got about 11 minutes left, so it might all end up done at the same time, which would be really handy. So with the cauliflower, if you've got everything hot and you puree it up and you're eating it right away, I think it can work fine. I found that if I heat the cauliflower and then I have to wait a while and then I add some cool ingredients and then I puree it and then it's kind of lukewarm, you may want to put it in a pan and just put it in the oven to heat it back up again. Kind of like, I mean, that's what I do with my mashed potatoes, creamy mashed potatoes at Thanksgiving and at the holidays. So it's up to you what you want to do with that. I'm trying today to get it all done when the cauliflower is still hot, so I don't have to add that extra step of heating it up again. But you may want to do that if you're kind of getting things ready ahead of time. Cauliflower is actually in the cruciferous vegetable family, so it's in the same family as kale, collards, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, those things. And so really good for you, known to help your body to support its immune system. I see a question in there. Question in the chat about almond milk. So you could use almond milk. The only problem with almond milk is that it doesn't have any protein in it. And when you're using this cup of milk in our mac and cheese, it's actually giving you 8 grams of protein. So I like to have that extra protein added if at all possible. So you can use almond milk, it's just not my favorite. Some of the other milks have, if you don't want to do soy milk, some of the other milks actually have a little bit more protein in them. Or if you make your own almond milk, I've been able to get the protein up to maybe 5 grams per cup, which is at least better than nothing. So I would check the nutrition facts label on the milks or the milk alternatives that you're choosing to make sure that it does have protein. Woo! So this is bubbling, getting a little bit hot. I think I'm gonna put, it's because it's kind of thick and creamy, it's a fine line between when it's splattering everywhere and when it's not heating up. That is the fun of the kitchen. Okay, so we're going to heat up our frozen cauliflower. There we go. All right, so I actually had to go to 2 different grocery stores before I could find the frozen cauliflower that I wanted. So I went to Harris Teeter, which is one of my local grocery stores. They didn't have plain frozen cauliflower. They had rice cauliflower. They had cauliflower with flavorings on it. They had some other kind of mixed with something else. So you could do this with a head of cauliflower, fresh cauliflower, just cut it up and then either boil it or cook it in the microwave. But I find the bag is way easier. So I did go to Food Lion, and thankfully they had these 16-ounce bags of cauliflower. So there's 2 of them for our recipe today. And I just put it in. I'm just sticking it in a bowl and I'm going to put it in the microwave. Now, it doesn't say how long because it's going to depend on your microwave. It probably took a good maybe 5 minutes, maybe even longer. So I'm going to put it in for 5 minutes and we'll see how it goes. And while we do that, we'll get everything else ready. All right, I got a lot of noise. I hope you can hear me. So let's do this next. I want to show you the roasted garlic because it makes your kitchen smell really good. And it adds great flavor to the cauliflower to kind of help make it taste a lot like mashed potatoes with garlic in it. And on the recipe, it says 1 head of fresh garlic. Don't confuse that with a clove. We're talking a whole head. So this is the whole head of garlic. We are going to cut the top off, and then you basically bake it in the oven. So let me show you. First, I try to make sure that like as much of the skin as possible is off of it. Not all the skin, because you want the cloves to stay in place, but kind of that outer layer. And then we're gonna cut the top off like that. So you have your garlic with the top cut off. Put it in some foil, or if you have an oven safe kind of container. And then we're just gonna add olive oil to these little cloves, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, all right, close it up, put it in the oven. So, and then it smells like delicious garlic in your house. So I'll show you what I have. This came out, I kind of got it out earlier, and basically the bulbs will squeeze right out. So let me try to make that happen here. They just push out. You can see they're roasted. They're a little bit brown. Once I get them all out, I'll show them to you. That one pushed up. And this, they shrink a little in their little cloves, so it's easy to pull the skin away and get them out. So while they're warm, we'll mix them into our food processor to cook with the cauliflower. Really great flavor. Some people just love to eat roasted garlic on its own. All right, I think I got them all. Maybe there's one more in the middle. It was pretty difficult to get out when they were burning hot, I will say that. All right, I'll show you what those look like, and then we'll put them in the food processor. You see those? They're nice and brown, kind of roasted. It'll give it a very good flavor. Okay, so you bake the garlic at the same temperature as the chicken at 450 for 30 minutes, roughly. I'm putting them in the food processor. And the extra olive oil that was in there is what I'm going to count for our ingredients. So it said 1 head of garlic, the olive oil that goes with it. We had salt. I might add a little bit of extra salt. Then we have a 1/2 cup of Greek yogurt, 2 tablespoons of butter, and a 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese. You can make it with or without the Parmesan cheese. You can use sour cream instead of Greek yogurt. What you get, I use plain non-fat Greek yogurt, and then I add butter, right? So you could buy full-fat Greek yogurt and not use the butter. If you just had sour cream in your house, you could use that. If you don't want to use the Parmesan cheese, you don't have to. You kind of make it your own, but it's really delicious this way. Pull this over so you can see it. Okay, so we've got our Parmesan cheese. We've got our Greek yogurt. We've got, I'll add a little bit of extra salt, a little bit of extra pepper. All right, somebody tell me if I'm missing anything. It has chives for garnish, so we won't put those in yet. All right, the cauliflower has been in for 5 minutes. Some of it's in the middle, still a little bit cold. So I'm going to stir it around and we'll put it back in. Now, I actually have a vegetable steamer that goes in the microwave. I think it was made by Pampered Chef, so that would be another option. I didn't actually try it out. I don't know if it's big enough for this volume of cauliflower. All right, we're going to give it 3 more minutes, and then I think that'll be it. So let's check on our mac and cheese here. Definitely very hot. So I'm going to turn it off. I think that it's plenty warm. Everything's about done. All right, so all we need to do with the mac and cheese is to just add cheese into the mixture. So it has 8 ounces of cheese. This is a 1 pound bag, so I used half the other night and now I'm using the rest of it. You can see it's the same color. So it melts right in. Once that's melted in, then we are going to add the noodles and then that'll be ready. All right, I think we're ready to add the noodles. Noodles got a little sticky while they were waiting. There we go. Makes a lot. So if you're a smaller household, I would suggest just making half of this. 1 noodle escaped. There we go. Smells delicious. I know you can't smell over the computer. That's the really kind of hard part. cooking online is you don't get to smell it. So you just have to trust me that it tastes good. All right, so that is done. I'm gonna set it to the side, and then once everything's done, I'll show you a whole plate of our food so you can see. Then I heard our oven. Our crispy chicken's done. It looks perfect. Sure you can see it actually looks a lot like fried chicken. Set that there. Oh my gosh, everything's happening at once. All right. So here is our cauliflower. And looks pretty hot. It's very steamy. Garlic in that. So what, in the instructions, it says to strain it. If you've boiled it, you will want to strain it and then kind of press some of the liquid out. When I did this the other day, I did, add a little bit of water when I was microwaving it. I don't think that was necessary, so I didn't do that today. But you could, like I have put this in a colander and then use the bowl itself to just smush down the cauliflower and try to squeeze any extra water out. I honestly didn't see that much water coming out, so I don't think it's necessary to do that. But if you think yours are extra kind of watery, then you may want to do that. All right. Some of them are still a little bit cool, so I want to add maybe 2 more minutes. So if you're adding that up, does anyone know? That's a little quiz for you. How many minutes we've done these cauliflower for? It was 5 plus 3, and now we're going to do 2. So that's a total of 10 minutes. Okay, what else do we need to do while we're waiting? I think that covers it. You can clean up while you're waiting. So what I found with the cauliflower mac and cheese is that it looks, and to me, it tastes very much like mashed potatoes because it has that creamy, garlicky kind of sour. I love the sour cream type of taste with it. I will tell you, my 10-year-old wasn't very impressed. So if you have some picky family members, don't expect too much out of that. The mac and cheese is pretty much a pleaser. But I think the cauliflower is really good. I like that I don't make a lot of cauliflower. So this is something I might actually eat cauliflower this way. But I do know people who love roasted cauliflower, just like I make roasted broccoli or roasted sweet potatoes. Roasted cauliflower is really delicious as well. You can put it on the grill. So lots of ways. It's a little bit heartier than broccoli. So it just kind of makes it a very versatile, I got a fly in here, a versatile vegetable that is cruciferous, really good for you. And it's white. So every time somebody says, well, my doctor told me never to eat white foods, that's when I get them. There's also nothing wrong with mashed potatoes, of course. Potatoes are a vegetable. They are a starchy vegetable. So potatoes I typically count as a starch. And this meal, our starch is coming from our mac and cheese. So the cauliflower is actually our vegetable, which is kind of fun. That's the part that I think is fun, is that we are having the mashed potatoes for vegetables. So, okay, it is about done. I've got all the other things added to our food processor. So we're gonna put in our cauliflower and just let it go to kind of mix everything up. Okay. So you can see it's a really hot, I don't know if you can, I think you can see it's steamy, really hot. So once we mix all these things together, it's gonna be pretty hot. But like I mentioned the other day, I cooked the cauliflower and then I waited a little bit before I mixed it together, and so it wasn't super hot. All right, here we go. It's kind of fun because the garlic, the dark brown roasted pieces of the garlic makes it look like potato skins. All right, see how it's doing. Looks pretty good. It smells really good. It smells just like a garlic creamy mashed potatoes. I don't know if you can see, it's very, there we go. Looks a lot like mashed potatoes. So I'm just gonna spoon it out into this bowl. It smells so good. I hope you all will take your pictures, send it to me. You could even, I think you could make this as like a base, like a mashed potato bar. Okay. So let me do this. I'm gonna make a plate for myself. My chicken tender. Oh, and you know what I need on this? I do happen to have some freeze-dried chives for appearance. Okay, and then our mac and cheese. Let's see. A little shadowy. Put it over here for you to see. It's nice and steamy and delicious. I know you want me to take a bite. Okay, I'm gonna start with the mashed potatoes because I feel like I did a really good job with the roasted garlic this time. Very good. I like the garlicky flavor. Now time for mac and cheese. So mac and cheese will always be my favorite. It's so good with the carrot in there. And then the chicken's really tender and crispy on the outside, which everybody loves. You know, my kids will eat it with ketchup, but I like it just like it is. Very crispy, very tender, really, really good in the oven. There you go. Look at us. It's 12:45. I just made 3 recipes in 45 minutes and it's delicious. So let me see what else I need to tell you. Are there any questions? Of course, you can always contact me anytime. You can call on the phone. You can send me an email. Where's my notes? Hold on. See if there's anything else I'm supposed to tell you. I hope that I'll see you on the party tomorrow, 10 a.m. We will be done probably by 11:30, but we're going to give our Patient Advocate Award winners. We're going to do some fun poll questions, let you guys share what you've learned over the week, share a funny video. It's always my favorite. Dr. Wentworth is going to co-host with me and the whole committee will be on. So we look forward to seeing you. Let's see. I think that's it for now. If there's no other questions, make sure you try out the recipes, send us your pictures, let us know what you think. And yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Thank you all for being here today, and we will see you tomorrow.